Forspoken is one of those games you can really go and lose yourself into. The combat is fairly deep, there's lots of stuff that progresses your character, and because of that, lots of things can go wrong at times if you don't pay attention to them. That's why in this video we'll go over the best tips that I have after around 50 hours with the game and some of the mistakes that you should definitely avoid along the way. Coming up to number 1, do yourself a favor and change the settings. Under gameplay balance, turn on automatic support spell switching. This makes the game auto switch to your next support spell under the L1 button that's not currently on cooldown, so that you don't have to constantly navigate these sub-menus. Unless you really want to do so, you can still have that option with this turned on. I play the whole game that way and it makes it much easier to focus on the more important active skills with the R1, and it just makes combat a breeze because of it. Also, under accessibility, you will want to turn on automatic item gathering. You really don't want to spend your time collecting every single thing by manually interacting with it. And instead, just activate this and Frey will automatically pick things from the ground or from inside chests without you having to do anything. It's also under these settings you can turn cuff chat frequency to minimal in case you find that dialogue way too annoying. At number 2, you will always want to collect mana. Skill trees already start with a few skills unlocked, but for the other more powerful perks, you will need mana points, and a lot of them, since there's 4 skill trees in total with dozens and dozens of upgrades. So every time you see them out in the wild or in dungeons, always make sure you grab them, especially when near one of these gray monster remains. They usually tend to have at least a few dozen scattered around them. Not only can you get stronger variants of your current skills this way, but there are endgame items that provide huge damage buffs the more skills you have unlocked in your trees. You also get them by completing missions, leveling up, and the first time you complete these repeatable flashback challenges. So if you want to farm extra, just do the flashback challenges and you should get at least a few dozens really quickly. But let's talk about combat, and here's a quick trick to animation cancel all of the major spell charges as they go into overcharge. Let's say you unlocked a level 3 burst shot but really hate how long it takes until it fully charges. Instead of waiting every single time, just cast it right after a parkour attack. So to do that, simply run, do a quick tap of the button for a normal attack during that run animation, and if you follow up with a hold attack button again, Frey goes straight into its max level, which should be level 3, instead of waiting for every single charge of the animation. This makes endgame combat a lot better. Actually, even early game combat becomes pretty much godlike, as you can now spam these attacks as you move, and you will want to be on the move all the time unless you want to get punished by all of these enemies. Also, another tip is to pay attention to the enemy weaknesses and switch between the powers that you unlock as often as you can. You can obviously scan enemies in combat, but you can also consult all of these in the pause menu to see exactly which elements they are weak or strong against. As you become better and use combos, parkour attacks, and avoid taking damage, you will also start noticing that these gradings go all the way to star quality, case in which you more than double the XP and the loot drops that you get during these encounters, so they are totally worth pursuing. At number 4, a very important mechanic in Forspoken is spellcrafting challenges. This mechanic unlocks around chapter 4 and it basically lets you complete challenges for all of your skills to further buff their damage significantly, the duration, improve its cost, or even add entirely new functionalities. You have to visit one of these bookshelves you find either at any of your safe houses or at any library, pick the desired spell you want the challenge for, and then go ahead and complete it. Once it's done, you don't even need to go back to the bookshelf, you can just apply the upgrade right away, but it's totally worth it because sometimes it can give you a buff up to 50% for certain spells. Also, a quick tip, in some of the more annoying challenges, if you have trouble completing them, you can just go ahead and do this trial flashback right here near Sepal to farm low level enemies and complete them a lot easier. This brings us to number 5, and you will always want to be on the hunt for new items. Not only do you get better and better ones as you progress through Forspoken, but the perks that they come with actually unlock account-wide so that you can use them on all of your other items as well. Let's say, for example, you get a very powerful cloak with something like a crit damage effect on it, well, the same crit damage effect is now unlocked on your account, and you can apply it for a necklace or vice versa if you want to. Some of the best spots to farm these items guaranteed are the labyrinths, which you see on the map with these icons. These will always give you some of the best in the game, including cloaks, necklaces, and even nails, and you will get them after you finish some of these bosses at the end of the encounters. But of course, there's others in there that you find in the open world. You just need to pay attention to that purple icon next to them, which could be any of those 3 specific items. At number 6, let's make exploration a lot easier, and if you want to do item hunting later or progress a bit better in the story, take your time in between major story quests and just go out there and explore. Even more so, make sure you first focus on the belfries and the safe houses whenever you are in new areas, as both of these will unlock as fast travel points. The belfry lets you do an entire area scan and will reveal the whole zone, including all of its hidden objectives, which can come in quite in handy. Meanwhile, safe houses are where you can rest, use the crafting bench, and even invite new companions into. You can further interact with some of the books that you see inside of these houses, which will reveal even more points of interest in nearby locations. That or guild towers can similarly also reveal additional points of interest on the map before you even discover them by simply interacting with the posters or the notice boards scattered inside of them. And if you happen to be out in the wild with no access to travel points yet, the game also features a camp mechanic that you can simply bring up if you have firewood. You randomly find this in labyrinths or other areas in the open world, and it basically kind of acts like a safe house, except it gets deleted once you leave it. Speaking of boosting your character, increasing your stats can be just as important as grabbing new items, and the best part is that it can be all done for free. The easiest is by far some of these monuments that you find randomly out in the wild, as they usually don't have any enemies around them. You just have to destroy that rock formation that grows on them, and then they give you a random stat. Anything from HP, stamina, damage, and so on, you can easily get from them. Of course, there's other events, some that even include combat, that you can similarly do for more stat boost, but in all of these situations, they are definitely worth it, especially as you progress through the game, or maybe if you play on higher difficulties. Things become a lot more difficult and you will want these stats to better survive or deal a lot more damage. Moving on, let's talk about crafting, another very important mechanic you need to pay special attention to if you want to further upgrade your character and especially your items. First, prioritize upgrading the mats and the health pouches for your character so that you can carry a lot more of them on the road. Trust me, you will burn through these like crazy later on. So if you want to do that, hunt for the feathers that are usually acquired from normal brown chests. These are needed to increase the material pouch capacity. And also nuggets. These are a bit harder to find from some of the tougher mini boss encounters like the mutants, or from side missions. They increase medicine pouch capacity so that you can carry with you a lot more healing flasks. Even more important is the upgrade submenu. This lets you upgrade the stats of your current items, but not all of the stats can be modified yet without investing some points into some of the skill trees, especially stuff like the Amplify, which lets you improve the magical stats, or Diversify, which adds a 4th skill slot to necklaces, all the way to the later stages Fortify, which allows you to improve the defenses on both cloaks and necklaces. Some of this you can just buy with mana points right away, but for others you have to visit the so-called fonts that you find randomly out in the wild. You can of course see their location by hovering over the locked skill as it is, but just know that some of them come a bit later or are inaccessible until you progress a bit further in the story. By the way, if you want to get additional resources, especially the ores or the flowers needed to upgrade all of these items, pay close attention to the ruins and refarm flashback challenges. In the case of the ruins, many of them can actually hold at least a couple of chests as well as tons of mats scattered around, but they might also involve some combat. Meanwhile, farm flashback challenges can be repeated. You won't get the mana points the second try, but all of those other rewards like the ores are definitely repeatable. So as long as you complete them with a high enough point, you can definitely just do it over and over again. At number 10, do not skip on the Detours. These are basically the side quests of Forspoken, and while many of them are simplistic, these are more often than not time sensitive, meaning that you will lose them if you progress too much in the main story. Almost every single story chapter will feature new detours, and you will definitely want to do them for the extra rewards. Sometimes it can be new types of currencies that you can't get otherwise, other times it's crafting mats, gear, XP, and so on. Many of them actually involve chasing some of these pet cats around the city, so definitely do that, as they reveal some of these puppets that you can use at a nearby vendor to grab new items, including crafting mats and also a few cloaks that can be quite powerful. But also pay attention to some of the other human enemies. There's plenty more interactions and even very strong rewards that we will cover in different videos. At number 11, pay attention to the Ornate puzzle chests, especially these ones that you find around Athia or in various dungeons that are totally worth pursuing since they give you old coins. So this is a special currency that you can bring back in Sepal at these two vendors, the book vendor and the cat lady. So the first one actually sells you additional perks that you can actually buy with the old coins and then apply on your gear, which comes in quite handy. But you can also buy extra toys for feline companions back at your house if you purchase them from the cat lady. Actually, in Forspoken, there's many of these spots where you can find these feline familiars that are pretty cute and awesome, but once you do grab them, they come back at your house and it makes you feel kind of like a cat person, but you also get all of these toys, which I think look pretty awesome. In any case, the game is really big actually, even bigger in the end game, because there's new areas that get to unlock, new activities including repeating main story boss fights, which is really awesome, and tons of new end game rewards. We will talk about that subject in different videos, so if you want to stay up to date with everything Forspoken related, leave a like, comment, and especially subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.